Morning, ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we will be playing the Conway. Yes, because I think I need to address the Conway. It's been a while since I played this tank, to be honest, and it's been a tank that I've always loved. The gun is absolutely to die for. Now, this tank does have two different guns, and both guns are good in their own way. So either gun, you can either have the big alpha gun or you can have a DPM gun. It totally depends on how you like to play the tank. Now, personally, I like to play the tank with a big alpha gun, but it's totally up to you how you play this tank and what gun you use on it. So, I mean, when I was doing the worst tanks, people were actually saying that this is one of the worst tier 9s, and I'm like, how? How is this one of the worst tier 9s? If people think that this is one of the worst tier 9s, clearly you are playing this tank wrong. So we're going to have a look at the stats. Now, you can see the turret is 132 millimeters, which is nice because it means that most tanks will not be able to HE you. Now, I mean, that sounds normal, but of course with the whole line is very weak armor profile wise. You've got the FV4005, weak as hell, whereas this, you do have a quite, not a nice turret, but enough so people won't be able to HE you. There's only like things like the Death Star that will be able to HE you, and of course other tanks with HESH like the FV4202, the Centurion, etc. The turret's not too bad. The DPM with this gun is 2,651. However, I am running it with calibrated shells because of one reason, and that is HESH. This tank has HESH. That is why I run it with calibrated shells. So if you wanted to run it with the DPM gun, you can see here that your DPM does go up by quite a bit, over 400, nearly 500 DPM, and so that is 3,100 DPM, which is very, very nice, and that is with calibrated shells. Now, if you do run it with this gun, I would probably say, I mean, both guns, I would say run it with calibrated shells because they both have HESH. You can see with that gun there, you've got AP, standard round 272, which is fantastic. The APCR, 342, again, very good for a tier 9, and the HE, 132. Whereas this gun, the big alpha gun, you do have 273 standard AP, and then you've got 220 HE pen. So yeah, very, very nice. So you will be able to HE a lot of tanks. And you do have a 600 alpha gun, and the HE is 670. The cheap HE, or sorry, the HESH is 670, and the cheap HE is 770. So I do run it with some cheap HE, but to be honest, I don't use that a lot. I don't use the cheap HE a lot. So we're going to have two games. We've got two battles for you, one on Canal, one on Ghost Factory, and both of these, we are running it with the big alpha gun because that's how I prefer. Now, years ago, when this tank was first released, I was arguing with, if you remember, Skate Extreme, which is a good friend of mine. We was arguing, like, not arguing, but like friendly banter, because I was saying that if you run it with this, if you play this tank, it is best to run it with this gun because it is more fun. It is a lot more fun unless you miss like that. But he come back saying, no, do not run it with the big alpha gun. Run it with the small alpha, or the shorter alpha, the shorter reload, but the DPM is much better. So then we went backwards and forwards. I went to play it with the other gun and thought, you know what, actually, it's pretty nice. So I actually made a video saying I was wrong. It's better playing it this tank with the other gun. But then playing in it more, I thought, yeah, it's nice, but it just doesn't feel as nice as the big alpha gun. So personally, I like playing it with the big alpha gun, but I mean, if you want to play by stats, if you want to play by numbers, then of course using it with the other gun is much better than using it with this gun. But I like the big alpha, I like the big HESH, and so me Personal choice, I prefer it with this gun, but most other people will probably prefer it with the other gun. But what gun do you prefer? Do you prefer the big alpha, or do you prefer the lower alpha but better DPM? Again, it is totally your personal preference. I prefer it with this. You might prefer it with the other one. That is absolutely fine. So if you do use it with this, and to be honest, not even just with this gun, even with the other gun, make sure that you try to utilize the HE on both of these, because of course, if you are able to get the HE out, your DPM massively increases, and especially something like on this big alpha gun with the 13.6 seconds reload, if you're against tier 8s, you will absolutely be able to dominate. Like, as long as you aim correctly, don't miss your shots, and you penetrate, of course, then it is it's good. It's good, and you're going to do a lot of damage. And again, if you're against tier 8s, most of the tier 8s you're going to come up against, you will be able to pen with HE or HESH. Another thing with this tank, which I find much better, and to be honest, with the whole line, make sure you use the speed boost. Make sure you do use that extra speed boost, because without the speed boost, they're not the quickest of tanks. And I've always said things like the Charioteer, things like the FE4005, these tanks are really, really good, and they're made good really because of that speed boost. If it didn't have the speed boost, I think that they would only be sort of average tanks. Whereas the Conway, I think even without the speed boost, I still think it will be perfectly fine. But of course, it is made a lot better with that speed boost. So we're going to get into one more game, and this game we are against tier 10. So again, even against tier 10, you're still going to be able to penetrate a lot of tanks that you come up against, but you need to put yourself in the right position, and that's the same with any tank with HE. If you're driving the FE4202, again, that's got HE. You know you're not going to be in any great position if you're in front of the tanks. You really need to get either behind them or at the side of them. So that's why I'm now sitting in this position, because I do have a shots on the AMX 5120, which of course I can just shoot that guy in the face. He's got no armor whatsoever. But if I was going left here, I've got all these heavy tanks in front of me, and there really isn't going to be a lot I can do, because if you're running it with this gun, you've got to remember that you've got no heat, or you've got no APCR, so you've only got your standard round, or you've got HESH. So if I'm sitting in front of them guys, things like the E3 or the 60 TP, I'm not even going to be able to penetrate them with my standard AP. So the only thing I'm going to really be able to do is just splash them in the face with HE. Yes, I'm doing that now. I am failing. I do admit I am failing my shots, but I've got more opportunity being in this position than I have if I go round there. And of course, with this tank, I do not use this tank as a tank destroyer. I do not go and sit at the back of the map and use it as a proper tank destroyer. I try to get in the thick of it with my team, sitting behind my team or next to my team. Because that, for me, is where I think this tank really does shine. So far, against tier 10, we have done 2,800 damage. And now I have spotted the AMX 50B coming around. So, of course, I'm just going to back up. And thankfully, I do have a little bit of help with one of my tank destroyers here, or one of my team here. And I am able to use that HE to clear that guy. And that was my first kill. So we are now on 3,300 damage. And again, you gotta remember, we are playing against tier 10s and front line in a tank destroyer that have next to no armor whatsoever. So it is now a 4 versus 4. Of course, I really want to clear one of these low hit point tanks. There's 3 here. Well, 2. You've got the T55E1, you've got the grill, but of course you do have that 60 TP making his way. So I do want to just get the hell out of his way. I do not want to sit in front of that guy at all. So now I can see the mouse is in trouble. There is the grill. Of course, I want to clear the grill, and I do just that for my second kill. And now the 60 TP is going to go round. They're going to try and bully the mouse, which now allows me to get up. And because my other two tanks are down this side of the map on the right, I do, of course, want to go this way. Now, that again was a failed shot on the T-54 E1, and you've got to be prepared for that. You do have to be prepared for fail HESH shots, because that is what HESH is all about. High risk, high reward. Sometimes it doesn't go your favor, but other times when tanks like this come up like that, that is a super heavy tank, which I was able to shoot HE in the bottom plate. Now, my only problem this game is I did not load enough HESH, and after this game I literally, the first thing I did was load more HESH and less AP. So yeah, I ran out of HESH, unfortunately, and you can see the traverse isn't the greatest, and I would love to just shoot this guy in the face with HESH at the moment, but wasn't to be. We shoot him with HE instead, and we were lucky to get that bounce. So we are now going to win this game. Hopefully the back chat can clear this guy before he can kill me. 1 second left, but nope, I'm going to splash him, and actually I don't. The AMX-50B does. So we still bounced 1,500 damage. We still bounced 1,500 damage in a tank destroyer with no armor, but we do get 4,400 damage, and of course we do get that mastery badge, and that is against tier 10, and that is what you are capable of doing in this tank. It is a fantastic tank that people can... They can like it, they can dislike it. If they dislike it, they probably are playing it wrong, because it is a difficult tank to play. You could get wrecked straight away. You could literally be blown apart. But it is a fantastic tank when played correctly. And what I love about it, it has two guns, that it is totally your choice what gun you play with. So let me know your thoughts on the Conway. Do you love this tank just as much as I do? Leave it in the comments below. But for now, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye. With